Hello friends, welcome back. In this session we are going to learn a client-side framework AngularJS. So let's see what is AngularJS. AngularJS is a client-side framework which is an open JavaScript framework, client-side framework. It is used and to develop the client-side part of a web application. It is developed and maintained by Google. AngularJS is developed by Google. And AngularJS implements the MVC architecture, model view controller pattern. This architecture AngularJS implements. AngularJS implements MVC architecture means the web application developed using AngularJS is managed with this type of design pattern. Model, view and controller are separate, not depends on each other. So the benefits of MVC architecture we see in the last session are utilized here using the AngularJS. So development of web application will be fast, extension maintenance will be easy for this application, and so on. It is like we can say that extended HTML, because all code you have to write in the HTML file of the web application, and which will extend the functionality of traditional HTML through use of different attributes on HTML tags. For some HTML tags, new attributes are added, and with those attributes, AngularJS helps to develop the website. It enhances the functionality of the HTML web page. But again, question in mind is that why we should use AngularJS? Because we can use the JS, JavaScript, we can use HTML, we can use CSS. With that, we can develop a presentation. Even we can use a JSP also. Then why should we use AngularJS? First thing is Angular markup lives in DOM, document object model. Manipulation of a DOM is a very live using Angular. If you don't use the Angular, and if you suppose we want to retrieve the value of some text box, we want to do some calculations, we want to execute some event, execute some function on the event, for these things we have to write the JavaScript code, and maybe this code is a number of lines code. Instead of that, this Angular is a very live to manipulate the DOM using directives, expressions, filters. Very effectively, easily we can manipulate the DOM, and it is live. It is live at a client side. Also, it has two-way binding. This is a very important feature of AngularJS. Two-way binding. What does it mean is, if there is any change in backend, that is a model, then view will be updated, and if there is any change in view, that will be updated to the model. So both way of data binding is done using AngularJS. We can understand that how much task, how much code we should save of writing it. Very less code, because we have to click, we have to send that data to the server. At the server, we have to write the server side technology to retrieve that data and then store in the model. So instead of that, here data binding is very easy in the AngularJS. Also, using AngularJS, you can validate the forms and input fields before submitting it. What else we want? Instead of writing a huge JavaScript code for validation, we can take use of AngularJS features which will be useful for validating the forms and the fields like blank text or email, mobile number, pin code, and many such criteria of input fields. Also, AngularJS allows to control complete DOM structure. Which part of the DOM should be hidden, which part should be shown, in which table, which content should be displayed, which content should not be. This will be done very easily using AngularJS. So you will see the code example, you will get to know this feature. We can also create templates which will be reusable for multiple times. Reusable, and we can create a custom directives in Angular by which our specific user specific directives we can prepare, which requires for multiple times for different web applications. Such directives we can write and reuse it, and those directives we can write in the Angular. It allows us to write basic flow end-to-end testing, unit testing. Yes, it is AngularJS allows us to write the testing, unit testing flow also. The next point is then how to install and use the AngularJS. For installing the AngularJS, two ways are there. First way is you have to download angular.js file from angularjs.org site, and you have to give the reference of it in HTML code. If you go to the angularjs.org site, you will get this screen. From here you have to click on this download Angular, so it will download the angular.js file. That file you have to save in your web application development path, and you have to give the reference of that in your HTML code. This is the part 1, way 1. Second way is you can include AngularJS file from the CDN, Content Delivery Network. Means you need not to have download it. You can use the online reference of that AngularJS file. For that you have to just include this line in your code. This script line, script source is https ajax google apis.com ajax libs AngularJS the version and then angular.min.js. This link you have to use. This is the URL to reach to the CDN where the AngularJS file is saved. Then just giving this script as include, if you include that in your page, HTML page, you can use all directives, expressions and different features from AngularJS. Now which way to use, that is the question. So one suggestion is that for standard applications, the best thing is to include the file in project instead of using it from CDN. Means it will reduce the dependability of the CDN to execute your applications for a standard application. But when you are practicing, I will suggest that now you are learning the AngularJS first time, so I will suggest you to go with this way too. So installation is very simple. You just need an angular.js file. We have also learned this while we learn the jQuery. We have to include that jQuery.js file in your web application and give the reference to of that in the HTML file, and we can take the facilities from features from that and use in HTML. Similarly, AngularJS we can use. So very simple installation and very easy to use. So if you are ready, let's start now learning actual basic features of the AngularJS. We will learn it with parallel, check the execution of the code. So very first important feature of AngularJS is directives. What directives are? Directives are markers on the HTML tag. Directives are the markers on HTML tags. What they do? They tell Angular to run or reference some JavaScript code. With that directive name, browser understands that which JavaScript code should be run and how to manipulate that DOM object. Directives are predefined directives with a prefix ng, angular. From that ng is taken ng dash and then which type of directive that is. For example, ng app, ng model, ng bind, ng init, ng repeat, ng show, ng hide, etc. Like that you can use the directives. Ng is for predefined directives. You can prepare your own custom directives and you can give any other prefix to use it. Second important feature of the AngularJS is expressions, where we can do the calculations, we can write the business logic. So that is AngularJS expressions. AngularJS expressions contains literals, constants, operators or variables, unlike traditional JavaScript. These are not the things there. Unlike traditional JavaScript, you can use these things in lead, and very easily we can write the expressions in AngularJS. Expression should be written inside the HTML tag itself, but care has to be taken to add the ngapp directive. Means if you have to use the expressions, this expression must be used inside the HTML tag which has the ngapp directive. Else the expression will display the content as it is and not the calculation will happen. You will see that in the code. How to write the expression? For that you have to use this syntax. two opening curly bracket, then any expression and closing curly bracket. These brackets are called as expressions. That is, in Angular, we can evaluate any expression by including them in brackets. Example is this. Suppose I want to do the addition of 4 plus 5, I have to write that expression inside this curly brackets. So at the time of execution, this content will not shown. The tag in which this expression is written there, at that place value 9 will be displayed as an output. So this is an example, simple example. Suppose div is an one HTML tag. As I said that Angular attributes are added to the tags. So for div tag, one attribute ng-app is added. And it is a directive. Then you can give the name to the directive to refer it from outside of this directive scope. Right now this is a simple application, so I am keeping it blank. Then inside this is a closing and start and end. Inside that you can write, suppose you employee name, and here is the text box to take that name. Ng model is another directive. We will go in detail about this in the next session. So like this, ng app, ng model are the directives, and this is an example of expression. In paragraph tag, this expression is there. Before going to see the first line of code, please note that in AngularJS, what AngularJS does not support? AngularJS does not support conditional loops and exceptions in expression. In expression, you cannot write conditional loops and exceptions. Also, it does not support function declaration. Even inside the ng unit directive, function declaration in expressions are not supported. Does not support bitwise, comma, void or new operators inside the expressions. It ignores null and undefined properties in expressions. Expressions are evaluated belonging to the scope object and not the global window. Means the scope of that model or scope of the variable in which it is used, it is evaluated to that scope, not to the global scope. So remember these 5 important points with respect to expressions in AngularJS. So let's start. First, what AngularJS means is we can write one template. What template is? A template is a HTML with additional markup, directives and expressions and filters we can write. HTML plus additional markups, directives and expressions are added. So see, this is a code example. If you observe here, document, this is HTML tag. Inside that head tag is there, then body tag is there. In head, title is there, metadata and style. And one important line here in this example, I am using the CDN to include AngularJS in my this HTML page. So for that, I have written script source and the URL of the AngularJS, end of the script. Then inside the body, I am creating one ng app. So div ng app. Then inside that one text box, and then this paragraph has one directive ng bind equal to name. So ng app, ng model is equal to name. So model is an attribute having name. So whatever value will be typed in this text box, that will be referred with the variable name, and here I am displaying that name. So the output of this will be, so this is the total template. This is called as template, which contains HTML plus directives, and output will be, if I type here web technology, this line is this input text, and whatever contents in this are referred with the name here in bind. So whatever you will type, that will be output here. So in the next session we will see how to run this code and further features of the AngularJS. Thank you.